American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down. Throw it all away. Throw it all away.
Welcome to episode 171 of American Timelines by History for Jerks, and I am Joe, back again solo with you because Amy is still on her quest to catch up with her job, even though it is Thanksgiving break. She will be back soon, just trying to get ahead of the curve there with her little kids. She's very busy. But I have some cool guests that Amy actually knows too, joining me, and it's probably good that it's just me with these guys because you don't want too many people on here. But I have two guests with me right here from our days at Bowling Green State University. Please welcome Art Fun Eye and Milo O'Brien. Mike O'Brien, we call him Milo. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that, Milo. I should have asked you first what I could call you, but
you know what? Either one of those is fine. There are still people in this world who only know me as Milo. So
okay, that's
go for it.
So I actually think I know like 4 Mike O'Briens. Like it's the most common name in the world, apparently. So we know you as Milo. When somebody says Mike O'Brien, which one? Milo. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, guys, so tell us. I mean, I didn't want to give any credentials up front because I didn't know what you wanted to be billed as. Like if you wanted to this, some people want to be like, don't tell my students that I'm on this podcast or anything like that. So I'll let you guys these guys are here. These guys are old friends. Like we haven't probably all three talked for 20 years. But these guys are great theater guys that I know them from the theater world, and they have something to plug, a radio play online. So go ahead and tell me about this, fellas.
Well, you want me to Milo, or do you want me to?
You start, and I'll supplement.
Okay, fair enough. Well, it's WJCU Christmas special. About 12 years ago, when I was working at WJCU and a grad student, I wanted to produce something more than just the usual fare of radio, which, is music and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it was such a diverse, and it still is such a diverse radio station that I went to the station management and I told them, look, I want to produce some radio. And I said, I want to do radio drama. It hasn't been done in a while, and particularly here in Cleveland and around the country. And they said, well, go ahead and let's see where it goes. So 12 years later, I'm still producing it, writing it, directing it, and all that stuff.
So it's been an annual Christmas radio play every year?
Yep. Every year.
It's not the same thing. It's not just Christmas Carol every year.
Oh, no, it's not Christmas.
It's not Christmas related. You just do it at this time?
Oh, it is always Christmas oriented. It's WJCU Christmas special.
Oh, it is a Christmas special. Okay.
Yeah, but we were right. Art writes something new every year.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or adapts something new every year.
Yeah.
Oh, so now adapt. So what are some of the ones you've done in the past?
Well, let's see. I did The Gift of the Magi, of course, by O. Henry, for instance. Okay. I've adapted the one that was really lucky about adapting was the Anti-Claus trilogy by Elise Primavera.
Oh, what is that? What's the Anti-Claus? Pardon my ignorance.
Oh, that's fine. It's a children's book series. I was volunteering some time at a local crisis nursery. They have a Christmas, a fundraiser every Christmas. And so I was asked to work in the toy area, which I was like, great. So I was sorting these books, and I found this book called Anti-Claus, and it was such a cute book. And I thought, I want to read this. So I asked the lady in charge, I said, while we're at lunch, would you mind if I read this book? And she said no, and I just loved it. And so I thought, this would be kind of cool on radio. So I emailed the author, and within 10 minutes I got a response saying, well, I don't normally say yes, but I'm going to say yes to this.
Really?
Yeah, it was really, really weird because That's not how it usually works. and and so there it was. The first one came and went, and the one kid that was in it with me, she said, "Are you going to do the second one?" And I said, "What second one?" And she showed me this second book. So I approached her again, and she said, "Well, sure, go ahead." And so we did the second, and then we did the third. But the crazy part of it is that I'm glad I didn't know it, because I didn't read the dust cover. She's a New York Times best-selling author.
So you would have been intimidated had you known what a big deal she was. You just thought she was some no-name, probably.
Well, wow. I just thought she was a children's writer. I didn't know she was a New York Times bestseller,
Yeah.
And so that friendship, and it's still there. I talk to her on occasion and stuff, but after that, I kind of wanted to do something that was really, really mine. Mm-hmm. And so I came up with this series called the Kringletown Chronicles.
Okay.
And it was just this crazy world of holiday characters. Let's see. In the first one, we've got Santa Claus, obviously, because it's a Christmas special. Who else is in that one, Milo?
Oh, heavens. Let's see. We have Mother Nature.
That's right.
One of the St. Patty's Day leprechauns.
That's right.
Stars. Who isn't in that? Quite frankly.
Let's see. A cherub. One of the St. Valentine's Day cherubs.
Right. And...
It's elves. It's a lot of elves and things, but it sets up the whole thing. What happens? Santa is doing his annual ride, and he spills some Christmas magic in his sleigh, and so it brings these 3 plush animals to life.
Awesome.
Hilarity ensues.
Yeah,
basically.
But what happens? What the story is that. They just don't fit in. One has a real, I don't know whether you New York or Chicago mouth. Which one, Milo?
I don't know. If you're talking about Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley.
I never put an accent on him. He just kind of came out kind of somewhere between Curly from the Three Stooges and Bugs Bunny. So New York-ish.
Yeah.
So can we listen to the ones from previous years, or is it just one every year it comes out and then it kind of goes away?
Well, the way the special works is pretty much a lot of the content that's on that day are the plays from the past. Oh, so, okay. Yeah, definitely they're going to be rerunning the first one because this is chapter 2. Because I did it as a cliffhanger, crazy enough. I ran out of steam. Okay. What happens is these three plush animals are they're bulls in china shops, and so the elves go to Santa Claus and say, "Listen, you need to get these guys out of here, otherwise Christmas isn't going to happen." So he sends them on this quest to talk to Mother Nature about to find out whether the snow is going to happen, and then to see if she might be able to come up with a creative way to spruce up the Christmas tree. And so they get the rainbow. But they don't realize they have it. And they come back, and Wesley tries to use this box and try to turn on the rainbow. Well, it gets way big, and the whole thing shatters onto the Christmas tree. And it's all kind of like a precursor to Christmas lights.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So that was the cliffhanger. I ran out of steam. I'm not going to lie. Okay. And then I was able to percolate to figure out how am I going to put this thing back together. But absolutely, they will be able to hear. They'll be able to hear the first one, and then there's a recap that I wrote, and then we go right on into chapter 2.
And so, when will these will be? You can stream this on WJCU's website.
Yes, either WJCU.org or you can go to ALEXA. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to turn on anybody's if they've got it going. Yeah. Or that other one, SIRI, any of those. But you can actually just tell them I want to play WJCU radio, and they will do it.
Okay, gotcha. So you can just play the radio now. That's the cool thing. I bet every radio station you can just listen to online anywhere now.
Oh, yeah.
And this will be on when will they start? Are they starting now? The Christmas?
Well, no,
stuff?
that is a special. It's gotten so large that they do the 24th and the 25th with it.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you'll see the schedule right up on WJCU.org,
Mhm.
and you can see when Kringletown Chronicles is playing Chapter 2, which is the new one, or Chapter 1.
Gotcha.
But they're going to be back to back.
Okay, cool. And you wrote both of those from
Yes.
scratch. Wow.
Yes.
Awesome. That's great. That's exciting. So, okay, cool. Well, thank you,
Absolutely.
both of you guys for being here. And you both play multiple voices on these.
Milo does. I don't.
You
Yeah,
don't do any.
I will this year play a couple different voices.
You will.
We had somebody for every part last year,
Oh, cool.
but the cast has expanded. So
Awesome. But yeah, so and all our listeners can now check it out too.
Oh, absolutely.
On WJCU.org. That's awesome. Or you can tell Alexa
Oh,
and Siri, Alexa, fight Siri. That'll piss people off. But I don't mind. That's cool. So, but now that we've covered that, and we're going to jump in. Are you guys ready to jump into 1954 with me?
sure.
absolutely.
A little trip down memory lane. And so what we do here on American Timelines is it's a true crime podcast, it's a history podcast, it's a pop culture podcast. It's a little bit of both. My wife wanted it to be true crime. I hate true crime. So it'll be kind of funny that I'm going to be telling a true crime story without her. So it's been kind of weird without her, but I like pop culture. I like telling people what was on TV during a horrible murder and things like that. So, and goofy things that happen. So I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to start off with a few things that started in 1954, sometime in the year. We don't really have dates for them, but just kind of notable things. Did you know 1954 blank happened? For one, the catchphrase from M&M's, melts in your mouth, not in your hands, began in 1954.
Huh.
And
Really?
yep.
I thought that was a lot more recent.
Yeah.
No, 1954. They came up with that formula to have that candy shell that supposedly doesn't melt in your hands, but melts right in your mouth. Another 1954 thing, aluminum cans for soda began in 1954. Do you guys want to guess what the first soda company that used aluminum cans is?
You would think Coca-Cola as the obvious first
Think
guess.
it's probably the oldest.
Yeah.
It's actually Royal Crown soda.
RC. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
At
They were the
54.
first. Yeah, 1954. Now they used cans. They started canning a little bit sooner, but they used like tin cans. Like
Yeah, because I remember this
yeah.
big push in the 70s to jump to aluminum.
Yeah. So 54 is the first aluminum, and I guess it was way cheaper and lightweight and things.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
a weight
So
issue from what I understand. Interesting.
I honestly don't even know if Royal Crown, if RC Cola still made. I don't drink soda, so I don't really. I'd imagine it still exists.
I think it is. I think it still exists.
When's the last time you drank one, Art?
Oh, my God. It had to be 20 years ago.
Yeah, I'll have to look next time I'm in the soda aisle. Down here we have. I'm sure Art, you're down in North Carolina now. You have Cheerwine. Have
You
had
bet.
Cheerwine? Yeah.
Yes, I've had that. I've had it. It kind of tastes a little bit like Dr. Pepper, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
They have
Yeah.
cherry Cheerwine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal down here. Like you have to love it, or else you will be ostracized.
Just like Duke's Mayo.
Yeah, Duke's Mayo. I'm 100% Duke's Mayo. Yeah, they had here in Charlotte. They had the Duke Mayo Bowl to start the college football season. It was Clemson and Georgia, and there was a guy they showed on TV. He was like right by the 50-yard line, I think. He was a college kid, and he ate a whole jar of Duke's Mayo.
Oh,
Like,
no.
During the game, like he was like dumping it into his mouth. Like,
Did he make it through the game?
I don't know. They didn't show him barfing later, but I think if they did, they would have cut away because Dukes would have been pissed. But he had to have thrown up later. I mean, he was covered in mayo. Yeah.
Oh, God. That's awful.
I couldn't help wanting a little bit. I love Duke's Mayo. I don't know if I could just eat a whole jar.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
So this podcast episode sponsored by Duke's Mayo.
Well, keep it up. They may call you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to chug a jug of Duke's Mayo before every episode from now on.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Good luck with that.
What's the sound of Duke's Mayo being chugged? Is it?
Oh.
I don't know what. All right, another thing in 1954, a drink called the Pina Colada was invented
Oh.
in 1954 in Puerto Rico at the Caribe Hilton.
I like
According
pina
to-
coladas.
According to Forbes magazine, the Pina Colada hails from San Juan, Puerto Rico, where it was created by bartender Ramon Monchito Marrero at the Caribe Hilton in 1954.
Wow.
He mixed up a fruity blend of rum, coconut cream, and pineapple juice, and boom, everyone's favorite summer treat was created.
And also gave way to someone to write a song about it.
Yes, that and you know, are you guys fans of that song?
I don't
No,
know.
I'm-
Fan. I
yeah.
know of
You
it.
like
I
the
don't know.
Pina
Fan.
Coladas? I hate to say the old trope that people are saying online now. I was today years old when I realized, like, I actually listened to it recently during the pandemic. I know that song, of course, but I never really listened to the words
Right.
and the story of that song. Like, you know that story of that song on how he responds to a personal ad.
Yes.
And it turns out it's his girlfriend or his wife putting out the personal ad. They both want to cheat on each other, and then they're cheating on each other with themselves.
I do
love
remember that.
story.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe everybody else just pays attention to the lyrics, and I always know just the hook. But I have a new respect for that song, and I plan on doing it at karaoke someday.
Cool.
I hope you guys are there. With me. Okay, here's another fun one. When we talk about chugging things, I don't know if you guys have heard. I don't know how familiar you are with Australian prime ministers or former Australian prime ministers.
If I heard a name, maybe.
Maybe.
Bob Hawke.
No, it doesn't ring a bell with me.
Hawke. So, former Australian Prime Minister Bob Hawke is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for drinking 2.5 pints of beer. 2.5 pints. Listen to this. 2.5 pints of beer in 11 seconds. And it was
Oh, jeez.
it's 11 seconds. 2.5 pints. Like, I can't even drink 1 pint in
Yeah.
11 seconds. And this was I couldn't find exactly when in 1954. I'm not sure he remembers when he did that, but he did it while he was in college at Oxford. And there's some discrepancy as to where the record actually took place. The Guinness Book of World Records entry cites Oxford and specifically the Turf Tavern pub, which still exists just outside the city walls of Oxford. And it actually has a blackboard marking the achievement, I think, still to this day. Now, this pub, the Turf Tavern pub, is also known as the watering hole for Oscar Wilde when he was there.
Okay.
Really?
Huh.
Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor drank there. Tony Blair drank there. Margaret Thatcher drank there. Most famously, possibly, though, it was the place where, reportedly, where Bill Clinton did not inhale from a marijuana joint. He was studying in Oxford, and that's where he said he did marijuana and didn't inhale. So this bar is super famous, and it's also supposedly the place where Bob Hawke chugged this beer. And according to his memoirs, though, he said it didn't happen at this bar, even though they claim it did.
Even
He
though
said it was
Guinness has
set-
it on record.
Yeah, he said, they, I don't know. He says it happened at a nearby dining hall of University College, one of the constituent colleges of Oxford University, where he was a student, and he said he did it because it was an arcane punishment for failing to wear his academic gown to dinner. He was quoted to say, "Some bastard had borrowed my gown, and as a punishment, he was sconced, quote unquote sconced. And that's when you're forced to beat the sconce master in drinking from a pewter pot. It's equivalent to a yard glass or a face, or if you don't do that, you have to face a fine. So you have to chug. Basically, it's a chugging contest, and it's kind of sounds to me like it's a Greek ritual. It's like the sconce master challenged you. You forgot your robe. You now have to either pay or drink 2.5 pints of beer.
So wait a minute. You mean his school is this just like a fraternity prank, or is this the actual school punishing him by chugging 2.5 pints of beer?
Yeah,
I think it's got to be a fraternity thing, right? It's probably
but it's 1954, so all of the man.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's out. So that's all I kind of found. It was like I think it was because I started Googling what's a sconce master, what's a sconce, and it never really says the same. I found like 8 articles, and they all kind of say the same thing. But he did it so fast in 11 seconds that it left the sconce master floundering, and they immediately put it in the Guinness Book of World Records, apparently. Which the Guinness Book of World Records, I don't know if you know, but it actually is named after Guinness beer. Like it actually started through the company of Guinness.
So of course they would keep the
beer
drinking records.
Yeah, this is probably one of the first records, I would guess. But he was quoted to say, "This feat was to endear me to some of my fellow Australians more than anything else I've ever achieved." So yeah, that's
I have a good friend. I haven't seen her in a while. She went over to the UK, and she's kind of a few fries short of a Happy Meal, and she goes over there. She goes over there and she goes up to the bar and she says, I'd like to order a pint, please. And the bartender said to her, "Excuse me, ma'am, ladies usually don't, order pints, And she looked at this guy and said, "I never said I was a lady now, did I?" and then she said, "I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden, all these pints started showing up right in front of me." And I'm like, well, yeah, Elaine, yeah.
They all bought her one. I love it. All right, one more thing that I don't have a date for, but happened in 1954. And this, we're going to have to jump over the pond to India. The city of Bombay, India, had such a bad rat problem in 1954 that they began accepting dead rats in place of taxes. They thought if they get everybody hunting rats and you could turn in dead rats to pay your taxes. This kind of backfired because people started mass breeding rats so they could kill them and use them for their tax payments.
Oh, man.
Yes, according to popculture.us, that's what happened in 1954.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great phrase that applies here. It's like, don't worry about trying to make something foolproof because you always underestimate the fool.
Yes, that is the perfect saying for that. That's awesome. All right, now we're going to jump into some dates. Are you guys ready?
You bet. Let's go.
Thursday, January 14th, 1954, where we have a notable marriage, and Milo, take it away. You're going to tell us all about this, right?
Yeah. I don't know huge amounts about it, but that is the wedding date of Marilyn Monroe and Joe Dimaggio, the ball player.
All right.
Yeah, they were married that day, and from what I understand, they weren't married the entire year. They only married. Yeah, they were married. And then they went on a honeymoon. He had arranged a honeymoon in Japan. Sounds lovely and romantic.
Yeah.
But the press, or not the press, but the U.S. Army found out that the two of them were in Japan. So they called her immediately to see if she could go over to Korea and entertain the troops, because this is still part of the Korean War.
Oh, yeah,
apparently.
the Korean War is still going on.
Right, yeah.
So they called her and says, "Hey, could you come over and entertain the troops for the Korean War?" And she, of course, said yes.
Wow.
So a lot of those pictures you see of her at the, entertaining troops at the Korean War are her honeymoon.
Oh, my goodness. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, really. But anyway, poor Joe lost his bride on his honeymoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he wasn't the happiest guy, but, he dealt with it. But he was kind of either jealous or ultra conservative, that kind of thing. Because
probably a little both, I would guess.
Yeah.
You're married to the most beautiful woman in the world, right? Like,
yeah, it's founded. Yeah, you can't blame the guy.
Yeah, can't blame him at all. Actually, yeah.
But then when they got back, she started filming like later that year, she started filming the movie The 7-Year Itch.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the one where she's standing on the grate and the dress is flying up and everything else.
That's the most famous one, probably.
Yeah, and he was on set that day.
Really?
He was on set watching this, and everybody hooting and hollering and having a good time, and she not caring, and it got to be too much for him. So they just, and too much media attention, and he didn't like it.
Yeah.
And apparently he got, I won't say mad, and then she filed for divorce.
Yeah,
in October of that year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to be married to the most beautiful woman in the world. But you look at the guys she married; they're not attractive fellas.
No. But But another thing about Marilyn is that she really valued education. She thought people who were smart were sexy.
Okay.
So she read like a fiend. I mean, she has this image of the less than brainy blonde.
Yeah.
But she read like a fiend, and she could talk with most people. So the people she married were also very smart people. So Dimaggio was smart. Arthur Miller,
Arthur Miller, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she could talk art with Arthur Miller and that kind of stuff, and other people around her. So smart guys aren't always the prettiest, but that's what she was into.
That's true. That's cool. That's I think that's exciting.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot of people know that about her, that she's smart.
Yeah, she really tried to. I mean, because she studied acting with some of the big method actors like Uta Hagen and that crowd.
Yeah.
She liked the brain. She thought being smart was super sexy, so she tried to be smart as well and did pretty good at it, from what I understand.
Well,
but
she's
the guy,
right. It is super sexy.
Yeah,
it is. I think so too.
Yeah.
But there's still this part of our monkey brain DNA.
Yeah.
This, quit whistling at my wife kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, but that was their marriage. It was 8 months long at best.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Was this her first marriage?
I don't know. I want to say yes, but I'm not sure. I think she was only married to the two guys.
Yeah, I think it was just
Dimaggio and
I don't remember.
Arthur Miller.
I feel like because I think I covered on here, her movie career, and it wasn't. It just started at this time. Oh no, I guess she. Oh no, I guess she. Yeah, that's right. She married. Actually, she was married to somebody named James Doherty from 1942 to 1946. I just saw on Wikipedia.
That was probably
before she was well known, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that was that might have been a high school sweetheart or a hometown sweetheart, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Gosh, every time I look at her, she's so beautiful.
Yeah. Oh no, those are the only three husbands.
No, he is known for his work on ABC Stage 67 back in 1966.
James Doherty?
James Doherty, yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so 54, 5. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at it right now. James Doherty for 4 years, Joe DiMaggio 8 months, and Arthur Miller 5 years.
Yeah, he was a police officer who broke a plot to kidnap James Garner, according to Wikipedia.
Really?
Yeah, I just saw it on Wikipedia real quick, and he went to school with Jane Russell. I guess I'm just like, Anyway, we don't have to get into all that. I mean, you can follow in a rabbit hole. Yeah, forever I could get into that. Which if Amy was here, she'd just rattle all that off because she was like a big Marilyn Monroe fan, as you can tell if you ever met Amy. But cool, Milo. That's great. That's good information about. That's Joe DiMaggio's marriage to Marilyn Monroe. A little bit about that. I'm sure that's at least 3 things most people didn't know. I didn't know about the honeymoon and jaunt over to Korea. Yeah,
it was fun to look that up. It was fun to look at that.
That is interesting. I didn't know about the honeymoon either.
Well,
yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That's good
You're
info.
welcome.
That's why I love this. I always feel hesitant when I have guests on because I'm like, hey, you want to be a guest? Also, you want to do some work for the show? Like, they have to do. You have to actually do some work for me, make it easier for me. But I appreciate that, and that's why I like to have smart people that are into the performing arts world, because they're usually up for stuff like this.
See, smart is sexy. I'm telling
Smart
you.
is sexy. We're three sexy guys on this podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a sexy sausage party right now.
That's the new name of your podcast, right
There
there.
we go. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to have you guys on the Gruff and Loud show with Steve too. Jump on there with the. All right, so that's gonna bring us to January 20th, 1954. And Art, it's now your turn to drop some knowledge about the National Negro Network.
Yes.
Which I did not know existed until I started Googling this.
Yeah, it was founded by a guy by the name of, he was a Chicago advertiser. His name was W. Leonard Evans Jr.
Okay.
And it was the first black-owned radio network in the country.
Okay.
And its programming was broadcast on up to, I think, 45 affiliates.
Wow.
Yeah, and let's see, other stuff that I found out about it. Their goal was to reach 12 to 15 million African Americans in America at that time.
Oh wow.
That was
That's
their
a
goal.
lot.
And they came up with content for an African American audience.
Awesome.
And interestingly, they produced other things other than, because they had DJs and things like that as well. African American prominent African American DJs at the time at their affiliate stations. But they also had things like symphony concerts from historical black colleges, for instance.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing I found really interesting about this was that they did radio drama as well.
Really?
Yeah, they had a soap opera called The Story of Ruby Valentine, which was based on CBS's We Love and Learn, which was a soap opera, and As the Twig is Bent. And it starred Juanita Hill and Ruby Dee.
Oh, really?
Ruby Dee.
Yeah. Yeah. They also had, the cereal was sponsored by Philip Morris and Pet Milk. They had sponsors.
That's awesome.
They had
how many
sponsors.
stations did you say they had? How many affiliates?
45 affiliates
All across the country?
across the country.
Wow.
Is that a large number for that time? Because I don't know.
Well, yeah.
It seems large to me, being 1954. And I mean, a lot of times I'm doing research for this podcast, as I've started with, we did the 60s before we did the 50s. We're kind of working backwards by decade. As I got to the 50s, it's like most of the news I'm like, I just Google like dates and times and things, and a lot of things are like TV stations are still just popping up. Like their TV is so new at this time, so radio is everything.
It's still king. Television is out there. The big networks are still doing network radio at this point. NBC, CBS, and at that point, I think we're now talking about NBC Red and Blue. The Blue Network becomes ABC.
Oh, is that what?
Interesting.
Yeah, because what had happened, NBC got busted, and because of antitrust laws, they were considered way too big, and so because they had the two networks, NBC Red remained NBC, but NBC Blue, which had the more minor entertainment on it, that became ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
I figured this would be a good one for you because it's about a radio programming, and you guys do a radio, play and everything. So,
well, also too, interestingly enough, some of these shows that they did were produced by Cab Calloway and Ethel Waters.
Those are big names there.
Very cool.
So this was a big deal.
So programming ran the gamut on this particular network.
It
Just
would.
Well, I guess just like any other network at the
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
I think just being that it's national, I think it's like the big deal too, right? Because they probably had local. There was probably local channels for black people, but this is the first time it's all across the nation. And
Oh yeah.
Seems like a lot of big cities there for 1954.
But it makes sense though, because I don't think it could have happened in because of the Depression of the 30s, and then World War II basically put everything on hold.
Yeah.
And now everybody's back, and now people are starting to get their lives back and families. And I could see where this would connect a lot of people, and it makes sense that it would happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's just like things you just take for granted, all the things that have happened and that you stumble upon. And I don't know, we just continually on this show, Amy and I just keep finding things that it's funny. It's just like, I didn't know that happened. I didn't know that existed. I'm this many years old and I didn't know,
Yeah.
and just like, and a lot of times in history, we went through the 60s and it was just almost, at times it was just like, is this even fun? It's just like, there's so, with civil rights and everything, just how awful our history is and racist our history is. And it's just like, there's so many things, but then there's some, cool things that we discover and fun things, but it's just so much throughout history that I think happenings and timelines and being surprised by them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the early 50s, for television, was the time that puppetry came into prominence on American television.
Yeah, Howdy Doody was a big deal.
Kukla, Fran, and Ollie.
And like I said, the early when television was just starting out, all these stations are looking for content.
Yeah.
And a puppet show was easy because it's one or two people doing shows as opposed to, live, something live.
A
where
whole
you've got
cast.
A dozen of human beings, which is
Right.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these game shows. I can't believe how many of these games. There's a lot of game shows.
quiz shows, yeah.
Quiz
And
shows
those
are
were
big.
prime time at that point. That was before the 21 scandal actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit, I think last few episodes, 1953, about some of the ones, and I think one of the big ones that you can still see on YouTube is Guess My Secret. I can't remember. It's What's My Secret?
What's my line? And I've got a secret.
I've got a secret, and what's my line? Yes, and I've got a secret. There's one, and I've watched this a couple of times. I still watch it just like because I can't believe it's possible for this person to be on television. But it was an old man who witnessed Abe Lincoln's assassination.
That's right.
And he witnessed it when he was like 5 or something. But he was there and he saw it all. And now he was like 1953 is like a million years old, and he can barely open his eyes. But it's like that's history right there. Like we can watch on TV this guy who saw that. So it's not that long ago. It's like a piece of history that you can see. It's fascinating to me, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Old enough to see.
What's that?
Old enough to be at Lincoln, to remember Lincoln's assassination.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Just to think about, it puts it into perspective. Like it's.
Speaking of 50s television, I have to go there. Can I talk about other podcasts? Because I heard something. I'm listening to the podcast right now that TCM does. And they do a podcast. Right now, they're doing one on Lucille Ball. And I just hit on it by accident. It's really good. There's one thing that I completely forgot about. Desi Arnaz was really, really talented. And a lot of people don't realize it. And he really had a brain about things. And it was in the contract when they filmed I Love Lucy. Mm-hmm. Those were to be filmed in 35 millimeter.
Okay.
As opposed to
16, which is they didn't want to go kinescope. That's why when they would rerun them, they looked great because it was 35 millimeter stock. 35 millimeter is movie stock.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So
but you're
he
right.
insisted on it being a better quality product.
Exactly.
Because he knew about this. He knew about the future of where this is going, because it is better. It does seem way better quality now that you mention that.
Well, kinescope. Let me help you out with that. Kinescope was just a process where they took a 16 millimeter camera and they pointed it at a television monitor, and whatever was going on, in the studio is what you saw on that monitor, and that's why the quality is so bad, because it's you're taking a picture of a television screen, a television monitor.
Oh,
yeah.
it's filtered heavily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm learning way more about film. That I was It's funny you talk about kinescope. Like you're just like you understand this. So yeah, I can see. I'm just googling it. And you can see picture images right away. Just kind of put it in context what Art's saying. Um, there was some kind of scope had just been invented in 1953. A movie. What is it?
CinemaScope?
CinemaScope. Yeah. Can you explain that to me?
Not really.
Okay. Because
I know the term.
Because it came out in 1953, and it was like one of the notable things in 1953, and I was going to try to explain, CinemaScope started in 1953, and I Googled it, and I Googled it, and I read, and I was Wikipediaing, and I was like, I don't know that I understand what this really is. Like, I'm not smart enough to get this. I don't know enough about film. It's a different kind of way to screen it. I think it, from what I dumbed it down as, basically what I imagined was once CineScope came, it's the full rectangle. Like it's just a square. I think before that, when you went to the movies, it was just a square. Like on the screen was probably bigger and it was just a small square. And once CineScope came, it was widened, like sort of widescreen, I guess.
I think two things about CinemaScope. Yes, it started standardizing that widescreen format. But I think CinemaScope also did something with film color. I think there was a new process for color filmmaking and production. So those things might be,
Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. I got a little bit of a working definition. A CinemaScope process is to compress a wide image into a standard frame and then expand it again during projection. It results in an image that is almost 2.5 times as wide as it is high.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So it's more of a big rectangle.
Yes.
Than it probably was before.
Yeah.
Before that, you would see just a small. Yeah. I blew my kids' minds the other day by telling them that black and white. Like my daughter didn't know that TV was just black and white for a while. Like, they have no idea anything. Like, I remember being a kid, and I really thought that I was so dumb as a little kid. But I remember seeing, like, you'd see, like, the older shows that are black and white, and then the color came. I think for a while I thought the world was black and white, and then color, like, happened in the world. And then
I think a lot of our generation thought that, because I distinctly remember asking my grandmother, "Did you guys have color when you were young?" And I remember the entire living room just laughing out loud.
Everybody just laughed at you. Like, you thought everything was black and white because it was on.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything I saw on TV was black and white prior to my birth.
Yeah. Well, this is all cool stuff. You guys are great at this. I definitely have to have you guys back on, I think.
Yay!
We'll have to do this, like, annually or something. But I have, before we get into our true crime, because I have to add a true crime, even though I hate true crime, January 29th, 1954, there's a thing I do that I don't know if you guys are familiar, or if you've listened at all, you would know that I really think it's notable to talk about people who were born at this time, and Amy hates that I do this, typically because I usually pick random obscure sitcom actors to talk about when they were born, and then I go into where they were born and what school they went to, and then sometimes maybe the colors of their team and what mascot of the high school they went to, and then what other people they went to high school with.
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
So yeah, Amy hates birthdays, but on this day, January 29th, 1954, Oprah Gail Winfrey was born. And her first name, I don't know if you guys know this, but her first name is actually Orpah, O-R-P-A-H. Orpah Gail Winfrey was on her birth certificate after the biblical figure in the book of Ruth. But so many people mispronounced it regularly, and so Oprah stuck. That's how she became Oprah.
Interesting.
Yes. She was born in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, to an unmarried teenage mother. Her mother, Vernita Lee, was a housemaid, and Winfrey's biological father is usually noted as Vernon Winfrey, but there was some controversy to that. There was somebody else who claimed to be her biological father. but she refused to believe it, and that's a whole another thing. But so after her birth, her mother traveled north, and Winfrey spent her first 6 years living in rural poverty with her maternal grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee. Her grandmother was so poor that Winfrey often wore dresses made of potato sacks, for which other children made fun of her. Her grandmother taught her to read before the age of 3 and took her to the local church, where she was nicknamed the preacher for her ability to recite Bible verses. When Winfrey was a child, her grandmother was reportedly abusive, unfortunately. But Oprah attended Lincoln High School, Milwaukee, the same high school that Al Jarreau went to. But after early success in the Upward Bound program, she was transferred to the affluent suburb Nicollet High School. Their team colors are white and blue, home of the Knights, also the same school that Cato Kalin went to. Her mother once again sent her to live with Vernon, her father, in Nashville. And then Vernon was strict but encouraging and made her education a priority. And she became an honor student and was voted most popular girl and joined her high school speech team at East Nashville High School. The team is red and gray, home of the Eagles. Notable alumni include Bill Boner, 1963, class of 1963, the third mayor of metropolitan Nashville, Davidson County. So his name's Boner, so I had to talk about him.
Yeah, he didn't get teased in high school.
Yeah,
No, not at all. Yeah.
But Oprah placed second in the nation in dramatic interpretation of that school, and Oprah's first job as a teenager was working at a local grocery store. At the age of 17, Oprah won the Miss Black Tennessee beauty pageant and also attracted the attention of the local black radio station, WVOL, which hired to do the news part-time. She worked there during her senior year of high school and her first 2 years of college. And then Oprah became Oprah, and we all know who Oprah is. But it's Orpah Winfrey. You can tell people that's her on her birth certificate and that you've learned it from American Timelines. And now it's time for the true crime. I'm going to jump into a murder story that will hopefully grip you all to tune in next week because it's going to be a cliffhanger. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I know this is American Timelines, but I'm going to talk about sometimes we're reaching to try to find a murder every month. So far we've found one for every single month, but this one is in India, the Belarani Dutta murder case of 1954. January 31st, 1954, shops in the Kalighat refugee market, which is sort of an outdoor, very busy marketplace in India. It would get very, very busy during the day, so the cleaners had to get up even before the break of dawn to scrub and sweep the place clean before the deluge of people arrived. One of these sweepers cleaning the place noticed 3 newspaper-wrapped packets outside a toilet next to a crematorium that is just outside the marketplace. The newspaper covering was torn around the edges, and when the sweeper peeped to see what was inside, he let out a yelp of terror. The package was tied with a coconut coil rope, and there were marks of dried blood on the newspaper, and protruding from it were human fingers.
Dum, dum, dum.
Soon a crowd gathered in no time. The Taligunj police station was informed. Officers came down and had to first clear out the crowd that had been looking intensely at the packets. Then they opened the packets one after the other. They contained 2 arms that went up to the elbow joint, palm, fingers, wrist, and forearm, ending at the elbow. All of these had been chopped into pieces. The newspapers used were of the November 21st edition of the Jugantar, is a local newspaper. And then on January 30th, 1954, the day before, in the afternoon, a guard at nearby Kalighat Park, that's Kalighat, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, it's like 6 minutes away from here, had just finished his lunch when he spotted something behind the trunk of a mango tree. What was lying amid the thick bushes and weeds? Well, it was 4 newspaper-wrapped packets tied with coconut coil ropes. Filled with curiosity, he tore open the newspapers in a swift movement, mindless of the consequences. What he saw inside threw him into a fit of hysteric fear. He started screaming and running around like a crazy person, so bystanders noticed, and within a couple of minutes, nearly 100 people had gathered around the packets. In one, there were dismembered body parts, 2 legs from knee to the sole, and another, the upper portion of a woman's body, chopped into 3 portions. In the third, there was a head with eyes gouged out, ears and lips torn off, facial skin peeled off. Excuse me while I throw up.
Oh,
Too much douche mayo.
man.
All of this had been done with an obvious intent to make the face unrecognizable. Only a few strands of hair were stuck on the head. And in the third packet was a full-grown dead fetus, perhaps a few days or hours before birth.
Oh, wow. Oh.
This is getting my stomach because I hate true crime. Officers from the Taligunj police station rushed again, this time to Kalagat Park, even as the early morning's unusual discovery had hardly sunk in. Officers from the homicide department of Lal Bazar, headquarters of the Kolkata police, rushed there too. All this is in Kolkata, India. And so all 4 packets have been made using the Jugantar newspaper editions of November 21st, 1953, January 10th, 1954, January 25th, 1954, and January 26th, 1954. And the savagery of this deed was so horrifying that everyone from the crowd that had gathered to the policemen who were collecting the packets and other evidence were shaken. The park was searched thoroughly, and out came another packet which contained 2 portions of 2 thighs. The newspaper that it was wrapped in, go ahead and guess, it was the Jugantar. And that is where we're going to leave it for now until we get to February of 1954, and I'll continue in the next episode. So just a little like, what is going to happen here in India?
Yeah, how very Jack the Ripper, you know?
Yeah, very.
Well, and it's probably something nobody's heard about from 1954 in India. Like, how would we?
Yeah.
Like, news was different then. Like, now we would all hear about it. But
true.
Yeah. Like, it'd be all over the national news and YouTube and Twitter and
What kind of person does that and then takes the time to wrap up everything individually with a bow?
Chop it up in all these pieces and then put it out in the marketplace because you want people to find it and you want to horrify everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will guess, based on 170 episodes of this podcast with Amy, I will guess it was someone who was either abused as a child or had a brain injury as a child, because it's pretty much those are kind of the common things here.
You're seeing a thread, are you?
Yes. It's always either an abusive situation, and then early signs might have been that they tortured animals as a child, which is all like uncomfortable to talk about. So sorry to end it on that that awful note, guys. But so you guys will have to listen to the next episode if you want to know.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
definitely. Wow.
Yeah, and on that note, listen to the Kringle Chronicles. That's a terrible way to segue into.
That's okay. That's okay. Go from mass murdering to a Christmas special. Yeah.
It has no mass. But if you don't want the murders, you can listen to WJCU. .org and listen to the Christmas programming on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, right? Both days?
Absolutely. The schedule will be up on the website. Definitely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That is awesome. So, yeah, and support local artists, small, well, I guess you're not local to Cleveland, but you were, writing, local people writing things and local creative art,
and musicians and
musicians
and craftsmen and actors and
absolutely
any artist you can find.
Yeah, support your local theater person.
Thank you.
We all need our creative outlet, right? And you guys,
absolutely.
Sounds like you guys have fun doing it.
Oh God,
I can't wait to listen. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll check the schedule at WJCU.org, and it'll be up. Should be up soon, right?
Yes, not, very soon.
Yeah.
Usually about a week and a half before Christmas, they start to put the posts up and everything about it. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing it for so many years, but it's nice to actually work with people, because it was always me producing, editing, directing, and writing. Well, now I got Milo and Maggie. Maggie is an incredible editor, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, she's really good. She's really good.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
How old
she's
is
a sound
she?
design. She's 26.
Oh, what?
Let's put that in perspective.
That's your daughter?
Yeah, that's my oldest. She's 26.
I was picturing her to be one still, but I forgot. That's right. She was one 25 years ago.
Yeah, she hasn't gotten much taller, but she's a lot smarter.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! She's not a baby child. That's
no,
right.
she's an adult with some mad skills as a sound engineer and sound designer.
Yeah, I haven't seen her since she was one. So that's awesome that she is doing that. You're keeping the family. And I bet this would be something that would be cool, as have your family get-togethers. You have music. You got to have stuff in the background anyway, right?
Right.
Everyone's got the radio on. Put it on and listen with the family.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a grand idea.
Absolutely. One of the things that I remember when I was a kid was because we would travel, and the radio stations in Sandusky, that's where I'm from, Sandusky, Ohio. Okay. The local radio station actually had really neat stuff on. It just wasn't all, the 24-hour Christmas marathon music. It was stuff. And so that's what I really wanted to do, and that's what I told the station director. And it looks like it is that way now. They do have a lot of nice content for that day, that you can do, finishing up your cooking, wrapping stuff, or just traveling.
Yeah, traveling too would be a great way. Now that everybody's got their phones, have the internet with them all the time.
Oh yeah,
connected to their radio. You can turn off your TV, turn off the marathon of Christmas Story this year, and just turn on the internet and let it play on WJCU.org. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Well, thank you guys for being on here and doing this work. And
thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Check it out.
My pleasure.
It's great to hear from you guys again and talk to you guys again. It's like it's been 20-some years, but I'm sure none of us have aged. It's great to hear these familiar voices.
Oh, yeah.
We all look exactly the same as we did 20 years ago. But,
oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a portrait in the attic, yeah.
All right, we're going to have to do a Zoom happy hour pretty soon.
That'll be fun.
I want to have some eggnog with you guys.
Good enough.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for listening, everybody. Go ahead and rate and review, subscribe. Please give us 5 stars on the Apple. Somebody gave us a 1-star review, and somebody gave us a 2-star review, so we got to counterbalance those two jerks with more 5-star reviews. So please get on the iTunes, or I don't know if it's even called iTunes anymore, Apple Podcasts, whatever, and give us a 5-star. Thank you for listening. Art, Milo, thanks for being here. We're going to take off. Thanks, everybody, but it's time to get out of here. Chuck Berry.
You think, man? Top 40 Japan, yeah. Would you expect my
Matt Truman Ego Trip is the greatest band of all time. Buy their music.